Welcome to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are in the final round of pool play at the USA Ultimate College Championships. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald, joined by Caitlin Murphy, where we have Wisconsin facing Georgia, two teams with a very storied history and a long, long day of Ultimate so far. Caitlin, what is Wisconsin really bringing today, this momentum that they're trying to bring into the game?
Yeah, I think they, after watching their game this morning, they made a switch in their energy kind of halfway through that game, and I think they're looking to carry that into the next round after this one because, this game is for either second or third in the pool, and they're really looking to solidify the momentum that will carry them forward. It's, that point in the day where it's really hot and it's easy to kind of struggle mentally, but I think they're really looking to be intentional about that. I'm excited.
So Caitlin is a member of the Wisconsin women's team squad, so familiar with a lot of the players, as well as Georgia was on our live stream yesterday in their pool play game where they fell to Oregon. However, Georgia was missing two players who had some transportation difficulties, Noah Lee and Brandon Lee, not related, but they are here today. What does the effect of having two new sets of legs?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure it makes the world of difference. It's really warm outside, but this turf is warm, so I'm sure it'll make a difference for sure.
First pull, the game is underway. Georgia on offense, working out of the handler stack, the horizontal stack in this handler set, finding the strike up line, putting Carey in power position. That continues. Quick score to Sam Batson.
Yeah, that was a really nice juke back toward the middle of the backfield before going up line there. He caught Adam Klaus on his heels a little bit.
And Georgia in the black jerseys. Just great track down from Batson. He's a senior at 6 feet tall. And what kind of benefit does it have to have short points in a tournament that is 4 days long?
Oh my gosh, and the way the weather is out, we were talking about this earlier in the game this morning. There were a couple of really long points. There's a point I think where 2 timeouts were taken, and it gets a little bit, it's mentally tiring and it's physically tiring. But then, if you have chronic injuries on the team, it exacerbates that problem. And I think Wisconsin's kind of seeing the importance of a deeper line or a deeper roster. They're trying to, carry that momentum. And hopefully they can do that a little bit more easily if they're efficient, both on offense and defense.
So Wisconsin will receive the pull for their first offensive possession of the game. Drew DiFrancesco to pull for Georgia. We see those red bandanas from Georgia, reminiscent of the Bulldog mascot, Uga, out of the University of Georgia. And that pull will go out of bounds, so it will be taken, Ben Pavleka, to where it went out.
Oh yeah, that's
really favorable.
Really, yeah, it's a nice spot.
So Pavleka checking in, inside backhand to Weiland, back to Pavleka. And working it up the far sideline. That is a goal.
All right. Yeah, that kind of first cut from the break side, that Chris is coming under and he's wide open. That really opens up a lot of options rather than taking that first cut from the open side. I really like watching when the Hodags or anyone really uses the break side really well. I'm excited to see what that looks like, with the wind coming toward us crossfield, because I think, especially because it's, we want shorter points, the break side's going to be really valuable.
So Wisconsin taking advantage of the favorable field position within half field, pretty much getting it almost in their own red zone and converting. So they'll hold. We are at 1-1. It's a game to 15. Half is at 8. The time you see on the clock is for hard cap. So soft cap is 20 minutes before that. And if we get closer and it becomes a factor, kind of go into that scenario.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if that pass just now was intended for Ted Shuey going up the line and then kind of ended up in John's hands.
But John Tan is 6'1", a very tall receiver, so he was there and ready to keep the possession alive for Wisconsin. That disc lands in over to Langstaff. Swings to Hodges. Over the head, and this is a break opportunity for Wisconsin early.
Yeah, the guys were really excited about their handler defense, talking to them after that last game, and that's evidence right there.
So Ben Shuey picks up for Wisconsin. Nice up the line look. Martin swings. And diving catch. That is the first break of the game going to Wisconsin. Let's take another look. What was so effective here, Caitlin?
Yeah, I like dirt balls kind of, he looks at the open side, then looks to the break side, and the kind of really quick in space, all of those cuts that had 2 changes of direction, catching defenders on their heels, hitting that skinny inside to Logan Martin, really set that up kind of for dirt ball to take the open side then on the next throw.
Harrison Bielski, the 6-foot freshman, with the score, as Wisconsin will go up a break. They have 2, Georgia 1. Be sure to leave a comment in the live stream. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We have had folks from all over the place, lots of alums and just fans of the sport tuning in from as far as Antarctica.
All right.
Morocco, Rwanda,
okay,
out in Asia. They're in the middle of the night now, so of course might be watching on the replay, but
yeah, you know, nothing stops the, you know, especially Wisconsin fans, but you know, I'm sure Georgia too, nothing stops them, including daylight, from watching. Really big alumni base here today.
So Georgia back on offense, looking to tie it up. Jones with the disc. And an injury on the field. Noah Lee.
And he's one of the men that's fresh today, yeah?
Yeah, Noah Lee on the ground.
He didn't catch what happened.
Perhaps an ankle, it seems like. He's being helped off the field by some Wisconsin folks. So substitution, Rohrbach will come in for Georgia. Langstaff to Jones. Quick give and go. See a zone look from Wisconsin. Kind of trying to keep it on the near sideline. Looking at the Blady shot overhead. That's good. Rohrbach with the disc and a layout, which is a score. So Georgia will answer back on offense to tie it up. And
yeah, that's a pretty You know, it's a risky throw to go around like that so close to the sideline, but if if you're catching Adam Klasser on his heels on defense a little bit, because it's not really expected and it's not the safest option, but well executed, a really nice bid.
So we're tied at 2s here in the first half. Georgia completing their offensive hold there.
Yeah, that was a really, that over-the-top throw there. I think it sounds like Wisconsin on defense is trying to be a little bit more intentional about what they're taking away. As far Hector was kind of talking about, they have some threats that they want to limit, and he wasn't specific about those, but that over-the-top throw is one of the only options. I would force that too, right? If that's going to be the only throw. Mm-hmm.
It definitely seemed like that's what Wisconsin was forcing, and it worked out for Georgia. That pull going to the very back of the end zone.
That's a great pull.
Wisconsin now right outside the end zone, working between the handlers. Gallagher to Pavelka. Back to Gallagher. He swings to you. Vote. Lots of fakes. Ends up finding you. And miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
So Georgia with an opportunity to break. Really quick transition offense from Georgia. Jones finds a receiver in the end zone, but 2-on-1 coverage is too much for Ben Gladstone.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm not sure. It looks like John Ross on that. I'm not sure if it was lefty or not, but that was a really nice inside backhand to kind of start off on the break side and get that progression running.
So another offensive opportunity for Wisconsin. Working it within the handlers, but you can see from their nonverbal cues trying to gain yards as well, proving to be a little bit difficult. Possession certainly key. Upside down, over the top is completed. To you. And intercepted by DiFrancesco. Another break opportunity for Georgia. They will take it and go up. Travis Kellogg with score.
Yeah, I think that kind of watching this defense set up, that's what it's made for, right? That run through D, he's ready for it. They're kind of being a little bit spongy on those handlers in the lanes. It's clogging things up a little bit for the handlers, and then it really gives the kind of middle of the zone an opportunity when it swings to just, you don't even have to lay out for those.
So Georgia will take a 1-goal lead. However, they did start on offense in this first half.
Yeah. I think that was a break. Yeah, we're back on serve.
Think so. Did you know you can join the conversation on Twitter and Instagram by using the hashtag USAUD1Champs? And this live stream is on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. So if you're watching it, you're tuned in there. But USA Ultimate also has an Instagram account and a Snapchat account.
Oh dear. Is there a filter? Snapchat
is. There is a Snapchat filter for those who are in the Milwaukee area for the college championships this weekend. So if you're listening and you're here, definitely check it out and post it. Back live in action, Pavelka with the disc for Wisconsin. Swings over, Gallagher. Back to Pavelka. Another blade, stays in bounds. Shuey to you. Another block for DiFrancesco. just kind of staying in the lanes enough to get it. Now another break opportunity for Georgia. Looking in the end zone, and that's a score with the grab for Georgia to go up. There's David Petmecki using all 6'2" of his height advantage.
Yeah, the defense that Georgia's setting up right now is, I think it seems to be giving them a little bit of trouble. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more movement after the throw from the handlers. You know, those lanes are really clogged, and they're doing a great job of swinging. But with the wind and, you know, earlier they're moving the disc really well, but with those short distances, there's a misfire, that's a turn, and then the score. And yeah, that was a break, and now they're down a break. I think, you know, talking about how the handlers are going to work together, I think it's important to make an adjustment early, you know, without letting the game get away from you.
Exactly. Down by 2, Ultimate certainly a game of runs. Georgia on a run right now with 3 points unanswered. However, it takes a couple good plays for that momentum to shift.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the heads-up defense by DiFrancesco. He's kind of, you know, that's his role in this zone. But it looks good. You know, if you're creating opportunities to generate turnovers and then you can execute on offense, it looks great. You know, it's even if it's not, you know, we have a couple of sky balls, but if you can come down with them, it really makes the efficiency that much more important. And now they see the results of that. Instead of 2-1, it's 4-2.
So coming out of the timeout, Georgia will pull to Wisconsin. And it is a warm day today here in Milwaukee, in the high 80s. The game is on a turf field, so that usually adds about 10 degrees or so to the heat index.
Yeah, I was out there earlier in barefoot. You can't go barefoot.
A little toasty barefooted. Gladstone to pull for Georgia. You catching the pull. It had a lot of zip on it. Gladstone to Pavelka. And Wisconsin really being selective and careful about their throws, knowing they've had 2 kind of in the middle blocks so far. Being careful with pump fakes to move their defender. Count getting high. Gladstone. And there is a call on the field. This will reset the stall count. So you can see a person look, but then a poach right in this 4-side space.
Yeah, I'd like to see that break side right there.
Throwing into very tight spaces. Gladstone
There it is.
swings over to you, threading the needle. A blade overhead. That's what Georgia was looking for.
Yeah, you know, you can tell once they get to the break side and they have the entire field to work with, they're athletic, great, and they can use their space really well. But it is got the turn. It's so important.
So some contact as you picked up the disc on the turn. Gladstone running by, I think not really aware of maybe how close you was. So a foul called, no contest, which means the count will come back on 0. Not that there probably wasn't a count to begin with.
I really like the the calculatedness that the Hodags are showing, that Wisconsin's showing today. You know, a lot of times we see these deep shots that the percentage execution is lower, and I like this calculated kind of a couple, maybe one more second to throw.
Gallagher with that calculation, leading to Pavelka, but travel called. You cannot change speed or direction. So disc is back in play. Nice fake from you, but instead Gallagher.
That's a really well executed throw, that kind of low inside. I was thinking that he was looking for the inside flick to Chris there, but he stopped, and that looks great. Yeah. That's what earns you the hold, right? That's what earns you the hold, when you can hang on to the disc, keep possession, hit the break side like they did and gain momentum. But that inside backhand right now that we just saw in the replay, that's a really nice throw and a really nice read by Nick Vogt there.
Showing so much patience from Wisconsin to take it within one. Georgia still ahead as they went on a run earlier, 3 in a row, but Wisconsin now answering back. And with the college championships in Wisconsin, this is like a home game.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't get to play close very often. We don't, it's the kind of tournament schedule where you're traveling a lot, especially because the college season is over winter. We don't play, we don't play close very often. It's really great to have access to such a nice facility and a really convenient location. Drove here in the morning and get to go home tonight, right?
So valuable too for youth players to be able to watch. I know when the club championships were in Frisco, Texas, my home state, it was so valuable to have young players see the best of the best. Some incredible ultimate on display this weekend. Georgia, quick movements from tight defensive looks from Wisconsin. The huck is up and caught. Cook, but there's a bobble from Batson.
Yeah, that's a pretty flat mark there by Logan Martin, and the disc turned over quite a bit more than I think he may have anticipated. The D,
There's a turn from Wisconsin, so Langstaff will pick up. Immediately looking to get it off the line. Jones, tall receiver, 6'4". And there is a call. Disc will come back in on 1. Cook, near sideline, goes up the line. Lots of light blue jerseys, but Langstaff will hang on to it for the score.
Yeah, I think those discs are floating a little bit going in that direction with the wind maybe slightly at an angle now.
So many Wisconsin defenders. You can see really 3-on-1. But everybody swatting it away, Langstaff tracking that in.
Yeah, I like that tap row. He's kind of backed off at the last second, and you have 3 blue jerseys go up and he's waiting for, if anything comes down. But that's, it's a pretty tight fit. I think they were close to the line too.
So Georgia going up 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's a few risky throws going up into the end zone down, especially on this end. And I'm not sure if that's, because the disc is popping up a little bit. But there seems to be a little bit of willingness by Georgia, to take the risks, and they're coming down with them. They're coming down, they're reading them well.
Both programs very much storied. Wisconsin with several national titles. Most recently, though, 10 years ago. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Have several alums, I'm sure, tuning in on the stream. Georgia also.
Yeah, there's quite an alum fan base here, too, I think. I think, Chris getting open on that under, Chris Weiland just now talking to Hector before the game, they were really trying to hit, just hit open hands. A lot of those men get open, and Georgia's doing a great job with that tight coverage.
Nice around look in that possession. Now gaining yards to Weiland. Inside backhand. Gallagher. Travel called. So, a little bit of communication, but disc will come back into play. We'll reset to Pavelka. Another call.
Go, George. Jojah. All A1. Let's go all A1. A1. All A2.
And little give and goes between Pavelka and Gallagher.
Yeah, I'm not sure, if they're not hitting open hands on that far side because they're afraid of the defensive bid. It's a great catch.
What a slide. Back to Gallagher, far sideline. Strike up the line to you, on the goal line, not in. And really tight space, but there's Ben Pavelka for Wisconsin to answer back with a goal. And another end zone score where we see a lot of patience from this Hodag squad.
Yeah, I see, David's throwing that fake low and the hands are high on the mark, and so he has that lefty inside. That's a really tight space, and it's really impressive that he can fit it there. With the tall mark and the hands are kind of at waist level, it's hard to defend both on the downfield defense and on the mark.
And really takes additional skill as a thrower to identify those various release points and use it. What are some of the factors that really contribute to where you release the disc?
Yeah, I think every player has their favorite throw, and especially, I have a lot of lefties in my life, and they really like to have a throw that's unique and a little bit unexpected and not, people aren't used to defending it, but these guys have, on both sides, they've been playing together for a long time, and so you get used to where your teammates would like to throw the disc, and you can cut for that. And you can only watch so much film to know where to put your hands on the mark. But I think it's a matter of, David Yu is throwing the exact same throw that he's about to throw. He's throwing the fake first and then throwing in the exact same spot. And I think, we get used to someone throwing a fake somewhere, besides where they're going to throw. And I like that kind of, it opens up space and makes it a little bit more creative for him. It's a beautiful throw.
Another great pull from Wisconsin at the back of the end zone. Georgia working it out. And Taparo with the disc. Lots of handler movement, trying to gain yards. Mac Hodges will find an open receiver upfield. There's Mason Carey. Pick called, tapped back in. Inside to Langstaff. There's the Huck, one-on-one, and intercepted So now Wisconsin with the disc. A little bit of discussion of where it needs to be checked back in.
Yeah, it looked like Ian Hahn there caught that D out of bounds, and it comes to the cone.
So reset to the center, swinging across. Wisconsin, if they score here, they'll tie. Backhand huck. And Jeff Moskalunas was headed deep, but just out of reach.
Yeah, it sounds like in the Georgetown game that Georgia just played, Georgia was doing a great job swinging the disc, and Georgetown kind of tried to force middle, and that seemed to work a little bit better.
So another opportunity for Wisconsin to tie it up inside half field. Lots of players around where Moskalunas caught that disc. Up to Yogara. Blady look to the end zone.
Yeah, that's great.
Logan Martin with the score.
Nice and patient. Yeah, you know, I've noticed on both sides we've had a few, you know, these turns are not necessarily generated turns, and it's the patience watching the disc into your hands that really matters. You can tell them both sides are kind of taking a little bit, they're having some intention about the way they're catching.
And really nice read from Logan Martin, kind of anticipating where the disc will go with that angle. So Wisconsin keeping it interesting. They go on a 2-1 run to tie it up at 5s in this first half of play.
Yeah, you know, we haven't had a lot of super long points yet, which I think is, you know, it's beneficial for, obviously for both sides with what the weather looks like. But I think it kind of sounds like both sides are trying to make those points efficient because they're really focused on the games that are coming, you know, in pre-quarters and in semis tomorrow. It's a long weekend, you know, it's a really long weekend to keep playing, and you have a 2:30 game on the turf. Quick points are nice.
So the winner will play in pre-quarters against the winner of Texas and Minnesota.
The loser, right? The winner of this game plays the loser. It's a two.
Yes,
it
is. Yep. It is. Yep, you're right. So currently Texas is leading that 5-3.
Okay.
But still really close. We're
yeah,
early
it's early.
in the game.
Yep.
So there's the pull. It lands and rolls, giving Wisconsin a little more opportunity to come down and set up their defense. Georgia with 3 handlers back. Langstaff shooting for the end zone. Not good. Mason Carey tried for the one-handed grab to maybe get a couple more inches. Not quite.
Yeah, you know, those shots, I mean, they haven't really taken a lot of those shots, and I do think it's important to take them to challenge the defense and keep them honest. You know, especially in conditions like this, I think that you want to be a little bit conservative with how much you're making your cutters run, but
the field position certainly part of it as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wisconsin working it underneath. And there's a huck that is caught. Contact on both the throw and the reception. Not in. Adam Klaus. And that is ruled in. Jeff Moskalunas. Wisconsin will take the lead.
Absolutely. That was, you know, I think, I'm not sure how high the stall count is here, but that kind of almost bounce pass to Jeff. I guess just a low release backhand. That D's really close on 42 there. You know, if you're on the line and the rest of the team's not down there and you're, you know, there is a mark and a stall count, that's impressive. That's a really nice kind of setup and a nice and patient, nothing necessarily forced.
So Wisconsin will take the lead. They have 6, Georgia 5. Half is to 8. And the college championships are just so exciting for all the teams. There are 20 teams in each division. Over 1,000 athletes in Milwaukee this weekend.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's incredible. I think the fact that you have athletes from all over the country that have interacted with each other sometimes in different settings, you know, in club or in college, and I like to see the rivalries, you know, the kind of historical, but, you know, usually spirited rivalries that happen at nationals. I love watching those.
And those carry on into the club season.
Yeah, I like that look there by Langstaff, you know, that kind of inside. If you see that shot and you take it, it just, maybe the execution isn't quite there. But that cutter, you know, the defense is a little bit loose on that side. I like that look.
So Wisconsin with an opportunity for a break. Incomplete, but some contact, or a call on the field. With the self-officiation, both players can talk it out and choose to go to the observer.
A lot of these men played with the Wisconsin women's side for the mixed regionals that happened in the fall, and we had a lot of really great post-game discussions about what the spirited foul call discussions look like, you know, and it's kind of interesting seeing how those are handled with observers too, because we didn't have observers at the mixed regionals, and we talked a lot about what spirit looks like, and I love those conversations, and it was really great to have those conversations with these men.
I think it's really important because a discussion isn't necessarily unspirited.
Absolutely.
That is part of learning and growing in the game, but it is definitely, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, yep.
And that looked like a spirited discussion from our vantage point.
It did.
One-on-one, Wisconsin manages to get the block. They're back on offense. Thought there might be another block. It ends up, the reception is out of bounds. Wisconsin blade, but headed to the ground. Carey catches it. Over to Jones. Langstaff with the disc. Georgia looking to tie. A hammer going up. Plenty of time. That is good.
That's a great look. Absolutely, you know, you have a defender, you know, we'll see the defender not super far away, but that hammer is a great option. You'll see all of the Wisconsin in blue kind of coming over to that open side, and on the break side there, number 20, maybe 21, oh, 29.
Mason Carey.
Mason Carey kind of, you know, if you're going to look hammer and you're that open and it's that well executed, that looks great. You know, I love that option. And I think, you know, to me, if that can be executed well, that's a little bit higher probability than some of those flat, really high, you know, you have a chance for 6 or 7 people to get under the disc. And a well-executed hammer is, it's a great throw. It's a really good look.
It went directly to Mason Carey. So we're now tied at 6 apiece in this first half of play. Let us know where you're watching and who you're rooting for. Let's get some Georgia and Wisconsin love. And honestly, if you're a fan of another team, post it in there too. Plenty of squads, teams who did not make it to the championships, but have great programs and very hard-fought seasons. So, bit of a bounce from the pole after it makes contact. Pavelka to you. Inside, Gallagher to you. See that calculation from Wisconsin. Inside backhand.
Absolutely.
Gets that continue. Now resetting to you after gaining yards from the cutters. Gallagher over to you, continuing Pavelka near sideline.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the faithfulness to the defensive zone here. You know, when you get a couple of those, you know, the momentum by Wisconsin, sometimes you call the zone off. But they did a great job of resetting, and you know, we're exactly kind of back where we were in the backfield with Wisconsin here, having to take a lot of throws to advance the disc.
So Wisconsin on this near sideline, swinging now into the center, moving it over, keeping it inbounds. Blady shot to the end zone, and a foul called. David Weiland sandwiched between two Georgia defenders. Let's take another look.
I'm not sure if Jared Bennett, you know, came down on top of Chris Weiland's head a little bit. You know, there's that conversation about the right to vertical space. As of, you know, it's the question of whether or not the disc was, you know, catchable, and it kind of looked that the foul was, you know, kind of executed before the disc was, you know, caught or touched, and it looks like a TMF maybe?
It appears a team misconduct foul will be given to Georgia, which is an acknowledgement of a potentially dangerous play.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a TMF that Wisconsin contracted in the last game, and I think, you know, there were a lot of calls, and the observers, you know, when you have an observer potentially making a decision, that's a nice outside for Chris.
So Nick Vogt is there for Wisconsin. His second goal of the game.
He's faking the inside there, looking for the dump, and he doesn't see that. That's covered. Jared Bennett with a really nice mark, and then gets caught a little bit too far inside for Nick Vogt to be able to come to the break side. And Ryan Dollar is close, but that's a really nice patient set.
We had a shout out in the comments to Mitch Dangler, the head observer in this game. And the observers, they are not playing, but they run up and down the field with the teams, and they get a lot of steps in over the course of a tournament.
Yeah, Laura Meyer was on this field, you know, the game before, and she was saying when you get put on turf and then there are quite a few deep throws back and forth, it tends to be a little bit of a workout you maybe weren't quite planning for.
Mitch Dangler with all kinds of insightful comments on Twitter too. And you can look at all the comments on the Twitter this tournament. Join that conversation by using hashtag USAU D1 Champs. And back on the field, the pull went out the back. So it will go up to the brick mark.
Yeah, the observers, you know, I'm kind of curious about their role, especially watching Wisconsin today. You know, they were a lot less conservative than I anticipated them being, and a lot of those fouls got called back.
So Georgia quickly gaining yards, approaching the red zone. Nice backhand around to carry. Checked back in play. Langstaff. Continue, but a little too low. Can't get there.
Yeah, I can respect that look around. You know, I think Georgia's doing a great job on the break side. You know, even if some of those arounds are not quite executed at the height that they should be, I really respect the whole other half of the field being used.
So Wisconsin, quick gives and goes, gaining yards upfield, but the throw was high and there was contact one-on-one. Cook holding on to his quad.
That's some great movement by Wisconsin, though. You know, that it's a little bit bladey. It goes over the head of Jeff Mascalunas, and he's quite a bit higher. You know, it looks like he definitely comes down on his quad there.
So Mascalunas is stretching out his opponent and defender, Matthew Cook. So probably a quad cramp. And Dangler with another blue card.
I think I missed that. Was that a team up for Cook? Who was that?
It looks like it's going towards Mascalunas, but they are conferring on the field. However,
yeah, to me, I'm not sure. You know, it kind of looked like they both went up and just came back down, but maybe, you know, it's kind of hard to tell, you know, when they're both in the air and the disc is not catchable.
So Mascalunas will keep the disc. So actually, if anything, it was an uncontested foul on Cook.
Yep.
So Wisconsin will keep the disc, approaching the end zone. Inside, flick, finds Mascalunas, and there's the continue.
Looks like maybe a call, a pick called.
Yep, going back.
This handler defensive set on the end zone line looks really impressive. You know, the kind of letting the handlers go into the backfield until the stall count is high and they're tightening up. And that's really taking away a lot of safer options. And that's a really, you know, where kind of that forces, you know, the downfield defensive forces turns like that. And that's crucial in a game like this.
And it is difficult sometimes on those really short passes to have enough spin to get there, but not be too much of a bullet either. Yeah. So Georgia back on offense, looking for a chance to tie it at 7s. Inside to Jones. He'll continue, but right back, up the line. Overshot, though, to Taylor. Here's an opportunity for Wisconsin to go up 2. And up in the air, right overhead. But
that's an impressive throw. Yep, that's it.
Bielski and throws it more towards the ground than he was hoping.
Oh, it's so hard, you know. I don't think it's excitement per se, but, you know, you're kind of looking for that low release maybe, and it just doesn't bounce like you want. Looks like we're maybe going to get a timeout here.
Georgia calling the timeout, turning into a long point.
Really long point. Yeah, I think this is our longest yet.
Definitely heating up out here, both from an intensity standpoint and quite literally with the temperatures in the high 80s. in Wisconsin and talking to some other folks who live in the Midwest, this is kind of the first weekend like
First
this.
nice weekend, yep. Yeah, you know, we never know what we're going to get. We kind of joke, we get winter, and then you get 2 days of spring, and then maybe some summer, and then construction season, and then it's winter again, you know? So it's kind of, this is the first really, really nice weekend. And it's, it kind of always seems like Nationals is like this, you know? And it really does test the physical and mental strength of, you know, even a big team, even a deep rostered team. You can tell even on this long point, you know, both sides are struggling a little bit to reset when the momentum is gained on offense or struggling to reset on defense. And it can be kind of hard to watch, you know, you can't do much about it other than call a timeout and kind of get a little bit of a reset.
So offense is set. Now defense gets to go into their positioning. You see a bracket from Wisconsin. Caitlin, kind of explain what that bracket really means.
Yeah, so it looks like Ian Hahn and Jeff Mascalunas are talking about who's taking up which space. Ian Hahn's taking the under, and Jeff is taking anything that goes deep. And instead of playing person, they're taking away the space temporarily until they kind of realign and find a person once the play develops.
So Huck is up, but does not come back in enough for the completion, even though Jason Jones was open downfield.
Yeah, I think this, you know, Georgia was in a vert stack there, and they do a really great job swinging the disc and working the break side, and I really, you know, a vert stack's a great choice for that, but it's also, you know, when you have that bracket set up to conserve energy, it's a really great defensive strategy too.
Wisconsin on offense, and that's a turn. Jones picks up and fires immediately, and that disc is good and in for Wisconsin, for Georgia to tie it up at 7. That was Sam Batson.
This is a great change of momentum and kind of taking advantage of an opportunity. You know, that that's a really, picks up the disc really quickly, and then he's hitting he's hitting Batson really flat, easy, out to space. You can't really, you know, if you turn the disc and then have to play defense, you can't really catch up with that if they're gonna have, you know, possession turns that quickly.
So going off that fast break play there, Georgia is able to tie it up. So we're at 7 points apiece. The next team that scores will take it to half. And that's just such a nice momentum play to be the one to take it into half.
Yeah, I really, you know, sometimes when you're tired, you know, and it's hot and you've come off, you know, a timeout, but not super recently, and then get a little bit eager to end it, and you want to be the team that ends it. You know, you don't want to say, well, you know, like, just let it end, you know, and use a passive voice there, like, I just want this to end. But if you can kind of take charge and execute faithfully and hit a flat disc out to space like that and be the one to, you know, execute on a point, it's great.
I like that, Caitlin, having the active voice saying, I will end it. So there's the pull to Wisconsin, up to Pavelka, and we're back in play on field. Swinging around, Gallagher to Pavelka. Shuey finds you. He'll reset to Gallagher.
Looks like there's 2 deep cuts there, you know, with Chris Weiland and John Tan both taking up that deep space. The middle's open, you know, they can both get open under pretty well too. It'd be nice to see both of those cuts happening in 2 different directions at the same time.
You, really big fakes, keeping the defense on their heels. Pavelka back to Gallagher, swings across. And travel called. The travel calls also sometimes will slow down the momentum of offense as well. So back in play. Wisconsin so far doing a really good job swinging it from side to side. Now kind of keeping it on the far sideline.
Yeah, that kind of, right there when David Hughes looking for that continue, now Ted Shuey's coming in and kind of giving that option, but the handler D, that zone is pinched up really pretty far and taking away almost any of the swing options, with the exception of a loss of yards.
And finding an opening. There's Chris Weiland over to Vogt. Back to Gallagher. Looking for Vogt. And Georgia really forcing Wisconsin to take lots of passes, but Wisconsin being deliberate. Another travel call.
Yeah, that can really break up the momentum of when you've executed a few throws in a row and it feels really great, but those travel calls are hard to maintain focus.
So back in play, continued interception, 1-on-1. That disc is veering to the right, but thought it was caught, but it wasn't. So Wisconsin will work it all the way down the field. They will call a timeout. Both teams realizing how important this possession is.
Yeah, absolutely. This Georgia zone, it looks really good. I think because it's pinched so far in and those, Wisconsin's trying not to take low percentage deep throws right now. It's forcing a lot of throws, and as long as they're safe throws, as many as it takes, but it can be hard, because it makes the point go on a lot longer, right?
And it's one of those where you work it all the way down the field, you get a turnover, the other team understandably hucks it right away,
Yep.
and now you get to work it all the way down the field once again.
I like the mental toughness that both teams are showing here. That if you recognize that that's what you need to do to score and you're willing to do that, and that can kind of make or break the momentum of a game. It's tough, to have that, work it all the way down and have that throw go up and then have to reset. But if you know that it worked the first time and you can stay focused enough to do it again and again, I think it's worth it. Efficiency is great too, but when you have a zone that's as gelled as the Georgia zone looks right now, that's what it takes.
So you see on Georgia, number 22, John Ross Ingley, kind of facing the other direction, face guarding to kind of keep the unders from coming.
Yeah, I love seeing that. I love seeing that, looking at the backfield or at the, kind of downfield at the cutter options and turning your back. It feels uncomfortable, but a lot of the mids, when they play mid over and over and they can get a sense for that, it's really impressive.
So Wisconsin doing what they did the last possession. Even Gallagher kind of slipped, but still caught it. Gallagher, and Pavelka can see their rotation through the various handler positions and striking, and then finds the occasional upfield look, that time in Shuey, but resetting back to the handlers. Gallagher. There's Pavelka coming in directly behind. Layout, but is caught. Shuey just kind of there in the middle.
Absolutely. That's a great bid by John Ross. It's hard to anticipate those, when they're coming in so hot, but that's, kind of mess up the rotation of the disc a little bit.
Vote resets back to Gallagher. Over to Pavelka. And the difference between a zone offense versus a person offense is you don't see cutters making as many vertical cuts because the onus is really on the throwers. And you can see with the various fakes to find the upfield looks. And now Wisconsin on the goal line. There's Nick Vogt, and Wisconsin will take half.
Yeah, you know that I'm so impressed when it's once you get to the red line, and you have worked at that bar to turn it again right here. Chris Weiland is a disc, he throws a backhand fake, and then he's looking for the reset, but he sees, that's I think the second or third time he's hit Nick Vogt on that backhand side. If you can be patient enough to work it down and then get that nice, usually 100% throw, and then that's a score. That's awesome.
So both teams going on 3-goal runs in this first half and then trading points to get to halftime, where Wisconsin currently leads Georgia 8-7. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we will have the second half of play. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Caitlin Murphy. You're watching the USA Ultimate College Championships, presented by Fulcrum Media.
Jake.
Welcome back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're at halftime at the USAU College Championships. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald, joined by Caitlin Murphy. And Caitlin, we've really had an exciting first half, both teams going on their own respective runs. How do you really see that then continuing into the second half?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how these points last. The first several points were really quick, and then the last couple points in this half, the first half were really long, and so I hope both sides can kind of carry that momentum. It's a close game, right? Maybe a few more turns than you might expect, but the patience on both sides is really nice to see.
So Wisconsin is currently up by 1. It was a back and forth in the last 4 points of the first half. They will receive and start on offense. So now they have an opportunity to go up 2. And lots of hang time for the pull. It does land in, checked in by you to Pavelka. Underneath, Shuey inside to you. Count getting high. You puts up a floating backhand and intercepted by Georgia. Georgia now with the opportunity to tie. Francesco, but Wisconsin will get it back inside of half field. Gallagher with the fake.
The offhand.
And the lefty backhand to find Vogt his 3rd goal in a row with the halftime break.
Yeah, wow. I'm not sure what that little handshake was. That was pretty cute. Had a little moment there between those two. I like that offhand look inside. It's a little bit higher release. But I think Tommy Gallagher I've seen him throw that in a couple games. And again, if, Nick's looking for it, it's a high percentage, right?
So Wisconsin will take advantage of their first possession, an offensive point, really, of the second half. They'll go up by 2. So they'll pull and give Georgia the chance to hold down by 1. Next up is pre-quarters. And see a little bit of fatigue. And we were talking about at halftime some of the nagging injuries from both sides, but especially on this Wisconsin team.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of chronic injuries. Sam Hebert hasn't gotten any minutes today because he was injured in a game yesterday. And Chris Weiland's playing on a fractured ankle, although it doesn't look like it, to be fair. And, there have been a lot of cramps. It's warm. A lot of players calling injury for cramping on both sides in a lot of games we've seen.
So, Flick Huck.
That's a really impressive throw. Wow.
Straight to Carey. Carey with his 3rd goal of the game. That disc had a lot of speed on it.
It did. There's a lot of zip on that throw. I thought he maybe received it and released it right away, but again, flat out to space. Gives a little time for Carey to run onto it, and Adam Klaus can't quite get there.
So Wisconsin still has the lead. They're up by 1. They will get the disc on offense. So Georgia really needing to get a break here to tie it up. What has been working for Georgia from a defensive perspective?
Yeah, in that first half, that zone looked really nice. You can tell that there's a lot of communication going on with their mid, making the choice to face backwards sometimes, and you get a really nice read on any options downfield. It's taking away a lot of cutter. A lot of times in those zones, you want to get that quick handler reset and then a throw through, the kind of handler defenders, but there weren't really many opportunities for that because Georgia's limiting them. And I really like the patience that they show on that zone, even when there are a couple of momentum gaining throws.
So there's the pull. Outside in. Pavelka. Backhand right away. And he's looking for Vogt. There's Vogt with the score.
That's another fantastic throw. You know, they're going, that first one that we saw from Georgia to carry, you know, that was pretty low and fast moving. And the one we just saw now, you know, you see it go up, and I would have thought that it might have turned over, but with the way the wind is kind of at a strange angle, Nick Vogt has a chance to run onto it, and then it kind of slides. There's an attempt, you know, on D. It's a great bid, but that's a really, you know, it's impressive that we can, you know, have these connections deep when you're tired, and, you know, you kind of have to recalibrate a little bit. It's impressive that we can make those connections on both sides, you know, the deep looks.
Nick Vogt, great hands in the end zone, currently accounting for 50% of Wisconsin's points.
All right, yeah.
So far in this game. So Wisconsin will take the 2-goal lead.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It kind of looks like Nick Vogt might have a knee sleeve on. I'm not sure if he also has a kind of a chronic injury too, but the Wisconsin's team, you know, with these injuries, they're resilient and they know that they have to kind of play up, right? It's nationals, so now is kind of the time. You know, a lot of these men are seniors and they're gonna not be here next year, and so kind of leaving it all on the field or whatever seems like what they're kind of trying to do without running out of steam before the end of the weekend.
Exactly. It's a long tournament. Started yesterday, ends Monday. And Georgia working it upfield. Jones, flick Huck, but Cook took kind of a weird body positioning angle, making it difficult to catch it.
Yeah, I'm wondering, he kind of looked like he had position there, you know, might not have had to worry so much about the mark.
So an opportunity for Wisconsin to get a break. But it's floating, and Callahan for Georgia.
Yep, you know, that's obviously the throw is not well executed, but it's great to have, you know, you have 3 handler defenders ready to prevent that swing, or at least make the swing challenging. And I think that's been a little bit of a struggle for the Hodags, and they in the first half, they did a really great job. But, you know, we see that pop up, and all of those handlers are pinched in far enough where that's definitely an option, and that's kind of what they're trying to force.
So there was a tip on the disc, and Batson managed to get enough position to, it was wobbly.
Yep, absolutely. But
he
hey, if you're
it.
going to get an unassisted point, you might as well, it doesn't matter how wobbly it is, I'll take it.
Exactly. So Georgia, that was an offensive hold.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So they're still down by 1. They need a break to tie. That's probably not the way that they were hoping.
That's probably not how they drew it up, no.
But they'll take it nonetheless.
Yeah, you know, in such a close game, I'm kind of, you know, point after point looking at what kind of turnover we're seeing on the lines, you know, how much of a roster. It looks like both sides have quite a few players. You know, both sides have almost maxed out their roster. And I wonder, you know, the men getting a lot of reps over and over, you know, what either side is looking at as far as depth, and if that will kind of win them any extra energy points.
Seeing a lot of the same faces on defense and offense, both sides of the disc.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin with their handler core of Gallagher, Pavelka, and
David
Yu. Currently kind of between Pavelka and Gallagher. There's Yu.
Yeah, you know, when the disc swings all the way over like that and you have the opportunity to hit the break side all the way over, I'd like to see that. You know, they had a couple of those in the first half when Ted Shuey hits that, you know, all the way over to the break side as a cutter. But it really opens up the middle then, you know, to work kind of almost Plinko style back and forth.
So finding some yardage gains up the middle brings Wisconsin much closer to the end zone. Georgia is staying in their defensive look. They have not crumbled yet to a person, which is typically what you see really close to the end zone, but not always.
Yeah, and you know, they kind of, with all of those, the players, you know, the Georgia's players kind of pinched up really far, it clogs everything up. You know, it doesn't, if you're going to stick with the zone, that's the kind of way to look at it.
So
really, really small windows they have to force, or an over the top or to the back corner, a hammer even. I'm not sure we've seen a lefty hammer to that back corner yet, but
we saw a lefty backhand earlier.
Yeah, that was a pretty spicy throw. I always like seeing those well communicated. You can tell they've been playing together a really long time.
So disc will be checked back in. Gallagher immediately going to you. Back to Gallagher. I really like the handler reset from behind.
Absolutely. You know, it really opens up an opportunity for the break side, but you can notice that Georgia's handlers, because they have that kind of third person, even the dump and then swing becomes difficult because that far wing on the handlers, Ben Gladstone is not positioned right now, trying to take that option away. And that really eliminates the opportunity to gain momentum.
Vogt with the disc, finding Pavelka. Back to Vogt. Resetting to Pavelka. Gallagher, and then you, and not in.
This looks pretty tight. You know, double teaming is not allowed. And I'm not sure we've had a double team called yet, but it's easy to get excited as a defender trying to force a turnover on the red line.
And with so many players so close together,
absolutely,
it's a double team, but there could be another player within 10 feet.
Right, and they have to be reacting to that player, you know, in order for it to be a legal defensive set. But you know, that's the offense's job to kind of clear out, make moves, and actually move the defense.
Not in, but the next throw is there's Shuey.
Yeah, we're kind of hearing even from the crowd, right? We can do this all day. They're saying, you know, it's true. If you look at the patience that Wisconsin is showing, and Georgia is showing too on defense, if the job of the defense is to force as many throws as possible, the defense is getting the job done. And early in the game, there were a few, you know, unforced turnovers, a few drops. But, you know, you can't be any more patient than Wisconsin is being right now on offense.
So Wisconsin will go up by 2. Georgia staying in the zone look all the way down to the scoring throw. And sometimes another strategy with the zone is not only forcing so many passes, but forcing the handler core of an offense to throw all those passes and create fatigue.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, it's not that the cutters aren't standstill either. You know, they're kind of trying to keep moving, and they should be. The goal is to be in the holes when a handler receives the disc so that the continue through the middle can happen. But that's exhausting, and it takes a lot of mental fortitude to maintain possession.
Georgia catches the pull, centers immediately. Last in the stack goes deep, out of the vertical stacks, but the underneath throw is incomplete.
Yeah, you know, we keep seeing throws that are going a little bit too low. They're trying to use the break side. But you know, that kind of low release can get you in trouble a little bit when it gets released too low.
And almost looked like a turnover, but Klaus kind of lets it go in. It's floating and caught. Logan Martin. Ian Hahn with the disc, puts up the blade. He finds Max Wolk, Wisconsin score. Wisconsin really wasting no time.
Absolutely, that was a quick point. You know, you see it again, these fakes are moving the marks really nicely. And the marks are fairly flat. You know, it's a flick force, but once you get the blade there, once you know, you fake backhand and the mark shifts a little bit and then we readjust. And the blade is really difficult to defend. You know, the defender's not on the open side. And I'm not sure if that's, you know, strategy or just getting caught on your heels, but that's a fairly safe throw, you know, if they're looking for it.
Wisconsin going up by 3. We are nearing the soft cap. However, since that point has already ended, essentially the next point has begun. So given that soft cap is about to go off, it will either be a game to 14 or to 15, depending on who scores the next point.
Yes. Yep.
So if Georgia scores, it'll be a game to 14. If Wisconsin scores, it will remain a game to 15.
Let's go, boys. Tommy! Got a nice little crowd coming for 40 seconds.
Feeling the wind pick up a little bit more
Absolutely.
just since the end of that last point.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more cloud cover, I think, which is refreshing, but also brings in a little bit of wind.
And there is the soft cap horn. So depending on who scores here, like we mentioned, will be the determining amount that the game number of points the team will need to have to win the game. Langstaff will take the pull to the brick mark. And there's a blade well put to carry. Resets to Hodges. Mac Hodges with another blade to Jones, but coming through is Wolk.
Yeah, that was a great, you know, I don't know that Jones is quite aware of him there, but that's a pretty safe play. You know, on defense it can be tough when the receiver isn't aware of the defense, but that's his job on that wing.
And the swing stays in bounds.
You know, right here watching the mark, you know, setting a mark is not the opportunity to rest, and it's late in the game, and so I like to see these really, you know, these active marks.
You with the catch and quick release to Logan Martin. Crucial score for Wisconsin. Their patience really paying off.
Absolutely, you know, and these points, they have actually, you know, they've gotten shorter. We had a couple of long points there, but if patience pays off, you get a little bit of either, you know, mental or physical fatigue on the other side, and you can really punch a hole in the break train.
And really to force that score was Nick Voigt's D, and you had really insightful comment about the D, even though the offense was unaware. Vogt really avoiding body contact, but still being able to get the block.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a bit of conversation on the sideline about that earlier in the day when you get that cut up line and a downfield cutter has the opportunity to D it. And I do, you know, I think there are a lot of different philosophies on that, but avoiding contact is critical for the spirit of the game. And, you know, in those situations when you can make a really athletic play and still be aware of your own body and other bodies, I think it's great and it's respectable, but it should be the expectation, right? And I really like to see a nice clean D. And strategically, you know, they're ready, right, to be ready for a throw that they're trying to force that blade throw over the top, and then you can, that's, you know, if they're trying to force it, then that weak side defense can be ready.
So with Wisconsin scoring, it will be a game to 15, even with the soft cap on. Georgia taking it up to almost half field. Immediately getting it off the line. Rohrbach over to Langstaff. Swing around. Taparo's there. That backhand continuation to Carey. Inside to Cook.
Yeah, a lot of these throws are open side throws, though. You know, the marks are not unreasonable, but it looks like the cutters are kind of finding that space for Georgia on the open side. That is a great backhand. Yep, that inside backhand.
And
may have been in bounds.
Observer rules in. So Georgia with a fairly quick score.
Absolutely.
Down by 3.
Yeah, you know, a lot of these open side throws, the throw goes to the open side, but even this, it's a throw to the open side, but it's an inside backhand, and I'm not sure even, maybe he could have even gotten that flick off, but, you know, that's a really, if you can hit that cutter going up line and then get the unexpected score in, it's great.
So now Georgia down by 3. Wisconsin needs 2 more goals to put it away, which is still kind of a lot of ultimate to play.
Yeah, you know, kind of depends on how long the points are, I guess.
Makes such a difference. The offensive efficiency that a team is able to have can really change the story and the dynamic of a game so much.
Yeah, it was funny earlier, you know, they've done a little bit of line switching with the injuries they've had on Wisconsin's side, and they were kind of joking, you know, when you receive on offense, you have to have your foot on the line and ready to go, and some of those men hadn't played on the O-line such that they didn't know, you know, so little that they hadn't, you know, they weren't aware of that rule, and the observers, I think, got a kick out of that.
If you're a perennial D-line player, you're used to backing up.
Getting that head start.
Usually the D-line has a running start, but O-line, to start on offense, you have to have a foot on the line to avoid the offsides. Lots of fakes.
That's an offhand to the backfield. I'm not quite sure what the flow here. There's great communication by Wisconsin, but it's hard to get somebody open downfield to get that continue, but Chris does.
And so much closing speed. Vogt with the slow motion clap catch.
Yeah, you know, I've seen that a couple times from him. It's a little sassy. I really like it. Man, if you can, you know, gain that many yards on such a beautiful throw by Chris Weiland, you know, that it's really hard to defend, you know, even if you're really fast. But yeah, you know, look, if you just look at how well that connects, I think it's a really difficult thing to, you know, kind of hit a receiver, but if you're throwing flat and out to space and giving, you know, the opportunity for that cutter to shine, that's a beautiful play.
The best of the best of the best from Nick Vogt as he scores his 6th goal of Wisconsin's 14 points so far. If Wisconsin gets a break, that is game point for them. Georgia on offense, hoping to keep that from happening. We have 13 minutes left in the game regardless. So
it looks like in that Minnesota-Texas game that's going on, the winner of that game will play the loser of this game and vice versa. It looks like Texas is up 10-8 right now, still in progress.
So that's an exciting game.
That's also an exciting game, yeah.
And caught pull. Mark is now set. 3 handlers back for Georgia. Cook with yards, but throws behind Carey. If Wisconsin scores here, they win. Klaus over, and that's the end zone shot. Max Wolk is there, and Wisconsin will put this one away. They defeat Georgia by 5.
Yeah, that game really got away, once again after half, where they're up a break. Um, and to end the game the way it ended, I think, you kind of have to be tenacious and patient about the momentum of the game and maintaining that. That's a great game by Georgia too. I am really impressed by their zone, and I'm really impressed at the kind of patience that they had all the way to the end zone every point. And I think that the D-line for Georgia should be really proud of that. It was awesome.
So Wisconsin will win 15 over Georgia's 10 in this final round of pool play. Following this will be the pre-quarterfinals. The first seed in each pool will get a bye into the pre-quarters. So that is additional rest.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which is very coveted in a long tournament. So we'll have the pre-quarter round for the men's division coming up in a little bit. I believe it's going to be Washington versus Massachusetts. Unconfirmed, but stay tuned for that. Then tomorrow morning, we'll have a quarterfinals round in the women's division on the USA Ultimate channels before we switch over to coverage on ESPNU and in the ESPN app. And actually, we have confirmed that Washington and UMass men's teams will face off on this field in the pre-quarterfinals coming up. But for now, for Caitlin Murphy, I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. Thanks for watching the USA Ultimate College Championships presented by Fulcrum Media.
Hodags!